The fall that nearly stole her life. Dr. Thomas's story of one woman's fight for freedom. A crisp autumn morning, the kind where the air smells of leaves and promise. A 72-year-old woman steps onto her porch, coffee mug in hand, ready to greet the day. Then, in a heartbeat, her foot catches on a loose board, and she's on the ground, her mug shattered, her wrist screaming in pain, and her confidence in pieces. That woman was my patient, Grace Thompson, and that moment nearly stole everything she loved: her garden, her independence, her joy. I'm Dr. Thomas, a physician who's spent over 3 decades helping people like Grace reclaim their lives, and I'm here to ask you, what if one misstep could take away the life you've built? But more importantly, what if a few simple changes could give it back? Welcome to Living Fully After 50, where we share stories of courage and practical wisdom to help you thrive. Today, I'll take you through Grace's journey, a story of fear, fight, and freedom that changed how I see aging. By the end, you'll discover 6 life-changing walking techniques that helped her walk confidently again, and I'll share secrets that could transform your daily steps into acts of strength. So, grab a seat, and let's dive into a story that might just change how you move through the world. Grace's world, a life on the edge of fear. I met Grace on a gray November day in my clinic in Portland, Oregon. She was 72, a retired schoolteacher with a laugh that could light up a room and a passion for tending her rose garden. But that day, her eyes were clouded with something I'd seen too many times: defeat. 6 months earlier, she'd fallen on her porch, fracturing her wrist and bruising her hip. The physical injuries had healed, but the emotional scars ran deeper. "Dr. Thomas," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I'm scared to leave my house. Every step feels like a trap." As a doctor, I know falls are more than accidents, they are thieves. According to the CDC, 1 in 4 adults over 65 falls each year, and for many, it's the beginning of a downward spiral: hospital stays, painful recoveries, and the loss of independence. Grace's story hit me hard because it wasn't just about her body, it was about her spirit. She'd stopped gardening, stopped visiting her book club, stopped being the woman who danced with her grandkids at family picnics. But Grace wasn't ready to give up, and neither was I. Her journey became a mission to prove that aging doesn't mean surrendering the life you love. The hidden power of walking, a doctor's perspective. Walking isn't just how we get around, it's how we stay free. It's the key to grocery runs, coffee dates, and those quiet moments in the garden that make life rich. But as we age, changes in muscle strength, joint flexibility, and balance can turn walking into a gamble. I've spent years studying how the body moves, working with physical therapists and aging experts to find solutions that don't require fancy gyms or endless prescriptions. What I've learned is simple but profound: small, intentional changes can make a massive difference. Grace's story is proof. Over the months we worked together, she transformed from a woman afraid of her own doorstep to someone who walked with purpose. The 6 techniques we'll explore today, rooted in science and tested by real people, were her lifeline. But this isn't just about techniques, it's about courage, hope, and the dreams we hold dear as we age. Let's step into Grace's world and see how she found her way back. Technique 1. The gaze that guides you. When I first watched Grace walk, she shuffled across my clinic's floor, her eyes locked on her shoes. It's a habit I see in so many older adults, a reflex to avoid tripping. But here's the kicker. Looking down all the time makes you more likely to fall. It hunches your shoulders, curves your spine, and throws your balance off, all while blinding you to obstacles ahead. I introduced Grace to the forward gaze rule, a trick physical therapists swear by. Look 10 to 15 feet ahead, I told her, and only glance down when you need to. She looked at me like I'd asked her to walk a tightrope. What if I missed something? She asked, her hands twisting nervously. We started small, practicing in my office, walking from the exam table to the window. I stood beside her, pointing out a spot on the wall to focus on. After a few tries, her posture lifted, and her steps smoothed out. I feel taller, she said, a shy smile breaking through. This works because your head is like the leader of a parade. Where it goes, your body follows. A forward gaze aligns your spine, engages your core, and lets you scan the path ahead. For Grace, it was like flipping a switch. She started noticing the world again, her neighbor's dog, the roses budding in her yard instead of just her feet. Small story example, I once worked with Henry, a 76-year-old retired firefighter from Seattle. He'd stopped walking to his favorite diner because uneven sidewalks scared him. After practicing the forward gaze, he told me, I see the cracks before I get to them, and I don't feel like I'm gonna topple. I'm back at my diner, eating pancakes every Sunday. Quote to inspire, as Helen Keller once said, keep your face to the sunshine, and you cannot see a shadow. Lifting your gaze isn't just about walking, it's about seeing the light in your path. A twist of fate, the letter that changed everything. A few weeks into our sessions, something unexpected happened. Grace arrived at the clinic clutching a letter, her hands trembling. It was an invitation to her 50th high school reunion, a chance to reconnect with old friends and dance under the stars like she did in her youth. But instead of excitement, she felt dread. I can't go, Dr. Thomas, she said, tears welling up. What if I fall in front of everyone? I'd rather stay home than be the old lady who can't keep up. That letter was a wake-up call for both of us. Grace wasn't just fighting for her daily walks, she was fighting for her dreams, for the chance to live fully again. It lit a fire in her, and it reminded me why I do this work. We doubled down on our plan, determined to get her ready for that reunion. This moment added a layer of urgency to her story, and it's what kept me rooting for her every step of the way. Technique 2. The rhythm of your arms. Next, I noticed Grace's arms were stiff, always clutching her purse or a railing. Fear had locked them in place, robbing her of a natural balance tool. Your arms are like counterweights. When your right leg steps forward, your left arm swings forward, keeping you steady. Without that rhythm, your body works harder to stay upright. We practiced gentle arm swings, keeping her elbows loose and her hands relaxed. Pretend you're marching to your favorite song, I said, humming a tune to make her laugh. She chose Sweet Caroline, a song from her teaching days. At first, she felt silly, but soon her walks felt lighter. It's like my whole body's in sync, she said, her eyes bright. This technique taps into biomechanics. Cross-body movement stabilizes your torso and reduces strain. For Grace, it was like rediscovering a dance she'd forgotten. Small story example, Clara, a 79-year-old librarian from Tacoma, had stopped swinging her arms after a shoulder injury. After practicing this rhythm, she said, "I walked to the library without my cane for the first time in years. I felt like I was floating." Quote to inspire, Muhammad Ali once said, "Don't count the days, make the days count." Every swing of your arms is a step toward making your days vibrant and free. Technique 3. The ground beneath your feet. Grace's fall had made her cautious, and I saw she was shuffling, her feet barely leaving the ground. Shuffling is a trap. It feels safe but increases tripping risks. We worked on a heel-to-toe gait, landing softly on the heel, rolling through the arch, and pushing off with the toes. I had her practice barefoot on a towel in her kitchen, feeling each part of her foot connect. "It's like my feet are awake," she said after a week. This motion absorbs shock, aligns joints, and strengthens calves, making every step deliberate. For Grace, it turned her morning walk to the mailbox into a quiet victory. Small story example, George, a 74-year-old veteran from Spokane, shuffled after years in heavy boots. Practicing heel-to-toe on his porch, he said, "My knees hurt less, and I'm not stumbling over my own feet anymore." A heart-stopping moment, the near fall. One day, Grace called me in a panic. She'd nearly fallen again, this time in her garden while reaching for a rose. Her foot had caught on a hose, and only her quick grab for a fence saved her. "I thought I was done for," she said, her voice shaking. But here's what stunned me: she didn't retreat. Instead, she asked, "What did I do wrong, Dr. Thomas? I want to fix it." That near miss was a turning point. It showed Grace's grit, but it also revealed a gap in her skills navigating unexpected obstacles. We used this scare to refine her techniques, focusing on awareness and control. This moment of suspense kept her story gripping, and it's a reminder that setbacks can be stepping stones if you keep pushing forward. Technique 4. The power of small steps. Grace loved her long, brisk strides from her teaching days, when she'd race down school hallways. But long strides can destabilize you as you age, shifting your weight too far forward. I taught her to take shorter, compact steps, keeping her weight centered. We counted her steps over 10 seconds, then tried again with shorter strides to increase the count. "I feel like I'm in charge," she said, amazed. Shorter steps boost reaction time and ease joint strain, making falls less likely. For Grace, it was about control, not speed. Small story example, Evelyn, an 80-year-old painter from Eugene, took long steps to stay young. After a stumble, she switched to shorter strides and said, "I can walk my dog longer without feeling wobbly." It's a game changer. Quote to inspire, Lao Tzu said, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." Make those steps small and steady, and you'll go further than you dreamed. Technique 5. The core of your strength. Balance starts at your core, your abdomen, lower back, and hips. Grace's core had weakened after months of sitting, fearing movement. I showed her simple exercises, lifting one foot a few inches while holding a chair, or tightening her belly while brushing her teeth. After a month, she could stand at her sink without swaying. "I feel solid, Dr. Thomas," she said, grinning. A strong core isn't just for gym buffs, it's your anchor for every move. Small story example: Robert, a 77-year-old chess player from Salem, did core exercises while waiting for coffee. "I used to lean on everything," he said. "Now I stand tall, and my back's happier." The final challenge: a friend's wisdom. As Grace's reunion approached, another surprise unfolded. Her best friend, Linda, a retired nurse, noticed Grace practicing in her yard and offered to walk with her. Linda had her own health struggles but knew the value of movement. They started daily walks to the park, Linda gently correcting Grace's gaze or stride. "She's my coach and my cheerleader," Grace laughed. This friendship was a lifeline. It reminded me that we're stronger together, and it added a heartwarming layer to Grace's story. Linda's support pushed Grace to keep going, even when doubt crept in. Technique 6: Mastering the ground you walk on. Falls often happen during transitions: carpet to tile, grass to pavement. I taught Grace to name each surface silently: tile, grass, step. This cue sharpens focus and preps the body for change. One day, she crossed her slit kitchen floor without a hitch. "I said tile in my head, and my feet listened," she said. This leverages neuroplasticity, training your brain to stay alert. For Grace, it was like having a superpower. Small story example: Rose, a 75-year-old baker from Bend, nearly fell moving from carpet to hardwood. Naming surfaces made her feel like "I'm calling the shots, not the floor." Grace's triumph: dancing under the stars. The night of Grace's reunion was magical. She walked into the banquet hall, head high, steps steady, and danced to Sweet Caroline with her old classmates. "I didn't just walk, Dr. Thomas," she told me later, her voice glowing. "I lived." She was back in her garden, back with her grandkids, back to being Grace. Her story is why I share this with you. It's not about avoiding falls, it's about chasing dreams. Grace didn't need miracles, she needed guidance and grit. And you have that same power. Lessons to live by, your path to freedom. Grace's journey offers lessons for us all. One tiny changes, huge impact. A lifted gaze or shorter step can rebuild your confidence. 2. Fear is a liar. It whispers you're fragile, but you're resilient. Prove it wrong. 3. Your body remembers. These techniques tap into your body's wisdom. Trust it. 4. You're not alone. Friends, family, or neighbors can lift you higher. 5. Every step is yours. Independence is about moving with purpose, not perfection. Final quote: as Maya Angelou said, "You may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated. Every step you take is a victory over fear." Your turn. Join the journey. What part of Grace's story hit home? Which technique will you try? Drop a comment below. Your story could inspire someone on living fully after 50. Like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs it. Visit us at https://www.youtube.com/@livingfullyafter50official for more stories of thriving after 50. Thank you for being here. Keep stepping forward, you're unstoppable.